My dear staff and students, a hearty welcome to the webinar on displaced people and their mental health concerns. It was in the year 2012 when lots of Sri Lankan Tamil refugees have arrived in Tamil Nadu after the fall of LTTE. I was very much involved with the community colleges in India and also helping out Papua New Guinea in the establishment of community colleges at the invitation of Sir Michael Somare, the then Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea. In 2012, we had the visit of the then Education Minister of PNG in Chennai, India. Currently, he is the Prime Minister, Mr. James Marape. I took him to visit one of the community colleges nearby Chennai city, Dr. Chandra Devanation Community College. We had a short function and a lively interaction with the staff, alumni, and current batch of students. One of the alumni, who was a Tamil refugee girl from Sri Lanka, spoke and gave a powerful testimony. She said, "Thanks be to God. Last year, I was put in this community college for 1 year study. I was really depressed and sad all the time. In our community college, as it is a very small, we have a beautiful gesture or practice of celebrating every student's birthday in a meaningful manner. My birthday came in the month of August. As soon as I entered the classroom, I saw my beautiful photographs nicely decorated on the notice board, and all the students started singing, 'Happy birthday to you.' At the end, every student, one by one, gave me various colorful flowers grown in the college garden itself. I literally broke down into tears. I told my friends, please don't sing for me happy birthday. Rather, sing for me happy death day. I arrived here as a refugee 2 years ago. My brother was killed in front of my own eyes in the bombing while we were trying to flee. My father lost one of his legs in the earlier bombing and severely disabled. And I alone just managed to reach the shores of Tamil Nadu. Till now, I don't know the whereabouts of my parents. Almost 3 years have passed by. I don't know whether my parents are alive or dead. The feelings of uncertainty about my parents almost haunts me and kills me every day. I attempted suicide twice but failed. Now I don't even have the strength to commit suicide. Immediately, all my staff and friends hugged me and assured me of their love and care. From then onwards, I was a special girl receiving lots of love, care, affection, and compassionate understanding even in my failures. Now, I am posted in a multinational company. Even now, I don't know the whereabouts of my parents. Not certain whether they are dead or alive, but my resilience that was given and boosted by my friends keeps me going amidst all these adversities. David Campton, a prolific British dramatist, wrote an apparently innocuous, straightforward and simple one-act play in the year 1972 entitled Us and Them. The play begins innocently enough with two groups of wanderers looking for an ideal place to settle. They do find this ideal place in the midst of environmental grandeur. Ironically, their places are adjacent to each other. After mutual agreement, they draw a line, what all of us will find simply natural and practical way, demarcating their respective territories. No problem for some time. Soon, however, the line becomes a fence. The fence becomes a wall. And the wall grows very big in size until neither side knows what the other side of the wall is doing. The mental health of refugees and migrants very much depends on how they are received and treated by the host countries. Displacement of people can be of a voluntary or forced nature. Displacement can also be external, for example, refugees, economic migrants across national borders. Or internal, example, internally displaced people, IDPs, or rural urban migrants within national borders. Both external and internal displacement is rising across the world, particularly due to conflicts and natural disasters, but also related to socio-economic factors. The Internal Displacement Monitoring Center estimates that currently around 27 million people are internally displaced in the world. The UN Office for Humanitarian Affairs defines IDPs as persons who are forced to flee their habitual residence due to conflict or disaster and who are not crossed a recognized international state border. The definition of IDP has grown from the initial framework proposed in the year 1992 by the UN to encompass various situations that could cause internal displacement of individuals or populations, including not only conflict or violence, but also events such as natural disasters, human rights violations, or government-sanctioned development-driven displacement. The number of people displaced from their home countries due to war, armed conflict, political violence, and related threats are growing. If current trends continue, 1 in 100 persons will be a refugee in the near future. Unfortunately, most refugees and migrants will not receive needed mental health care due to scarcity of services and the social stigma prevailing against mental health care. Worldwide, over 65 million persons are currently displaced by war, armed conflict, or persecution, the majority of whom are located in low and lower middle income countries. Globally, half of the refugees live in unstable and insecure situations. There are more than 25 million refugees in the world, half of whom are under 18 years old. About 1 out of 3 refugees and migrants experience high rates of depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorders known as PTSD. Refugees are defined as someone who, owing to a well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion, is outside the country of his or her nationality and is unable to, or owing to such a fear, is unwilling to avail himself of the protection of that country. The experience of forcible migrants is varied. Some migrants have endured chronic, pervasive exposure to interpersonal and community violence, the uncertainty of the future, personal or family persecution, violent loss of loved ones, and an insecure environment. Others have experienced a shorter exposure to high violence, such as active war. Friends, refugees and migrants all over the world suffer from several problems. The very fact they are made to move from their own original motherland or fatherland or whatever that is, causes lots of stress and tension. There are a number of mental health concerns the refugees and migrants face today all over the world. First, the whole concept of disconnectedness. The refugees and migrants are forcibly uprooted from their own place or land. They are no more connected to their land, their comfort zones, their interpersonal relationship, their social connections and conducive environment. Oftentimes, the refugees and forcibly displaced people must abruptly leave all their belongings except only the most necessary and quickly say goodbye to loved ones who may be unable to join them. They do not necessarily want to leave their home environment and culture that raised them. Therefore, these people lose not only material resources like housing, education, access to food and water and security, but also social relationships and cultural supports. Secondly, in terms of forced migration, there are a number of things that force them to migrate to an alien land. They are forced to live among the alien people who are totally new to them. The causes can be economic, politics, any political or ethnic conflict like that of what happens in Myanmar today, or any natural disaster that are happening around them. Mental health conflicts start with post-traumatic stress-related disorders. There are whole lots of mental health disabilities happening to these refugees and forced migrants. Most of the refugees and migrants experience minor or major mental disabilities, but some end up in permanent mental disabilities and end up as alcoholics and drug abusers for lifelong. In terms of working with refugees in India, they also face a number of issues, particularly the Sri Lankan refugees. There are more than 50,000 Sri Lankan refugees living in 107 camps. Most of them have been here more than 35 years. What troubles them is the uncertainty. Having been in India more than 3 decades, experiencing uncertainty, and they are not sure of what is next for them and what the future holds for them. India has so far not given them or is not willing to give them the citizenship, and they are not sure when they are going to return, and when they return, they are not sure what type of circumstances would prevail in Sri Lanka. As long as there are uncertainties concerning their own livelihood, the education and decent employment of their children, their family, social and community life and housing, there will be major mental health stresses for the Sri Lankan refugees in India. Early mental health care should therefore be a priority for refugees, as the post-migration stresses such as prolonged detention, insecure immigration status, and limitations on work and education can worsen their mental health. When individuals and families seek safety by leaving their homes, cultures, and communities due to the threats of violence and persecution, emotional distress can be highly heightened. Let's now listen to Ms. Rosalind Kaya from Loiko, Myanmar. She herself is an IDP and also the directress of Jesuit Refugee Service, JRS, in Myanmar.
Hello everyone, I'm Rosalind from Jesuit Refugee Service from Myanmar. I'm happy to be part of this webinar. We are working in the displaced camps and conflict-affected remote villages in Kachin and Kayah states. As you know, Myanmar is a civil war-torn country for more than 70 years. The consequences of COVID-19 pandemic since last year and the military coup this year have affected many aspects of the life of the people of Myanmar, including their mental well-being. We witnessed the brutality of Myanmar military towards civilians. Many people, including my family, were newly displaced, and many were killed, including one of my nephews who got shot to death by Myanmar army for no reason. The economy, health, education, banking systems were all broken down. We lost some of our loved ones to COVID-19, and you can imagine how much more to the already displaced persons who had previous trauma. Based on our experiences, the main mental health concerns of the people we serve are like anxiety, fear, worry, emotional distress, anger, feeling of guilt, irritability, hopelessness, indecisiveness, unhealthy coping ways, and we also observe some domestic violence in some camps, more and more. Sometimes social media, like Facebook, which is very popular in our country, influence the emotions too, triggering the worry, fear, anger, etc. However, we experience also the value of unity, solidarity, and community spirit among the displaced people, as we see they are helping each other in many little ways they can, although they themselves are displaced, and many other civilians also showed their acts of love to displaced people. Some NGOs have a separate MHBSS program for the displaced people in Kachin, but for GRS we integrate in our existing education activities and social pastoral accompaniment work. Since we are also directly somehow affected by the crisis, it's very important for us to be mindful and to know our limitations and remind each other for self-care and connect with counseling service for our staff. We also observe that many people still misunderstand mental health as it is only related with lunatic persons, they thought. And very few may approach professional help because people here mostly do not want to share their personal problems to outsiders. Sometimes, although the family wants to cooperate, there are many barriers such as they need to work to earn for a living and they cannot give much time to accompany the mentally ill family member to the care center. Many things to do, from awareness reason to policy level, including identifying and using cultural practices to help promote mental well-being, increasing skills of community leaders, including religious leaders in counseling, and producing more skillful professional social workers and mental health practitioners, as there are very few of them in our country. A long way to go, but we move with each step. Thank you.
We now listen to Dr. Girish Sandhyaku, a Jesuit priest who has been working for IDPs in Kachin State, Myanmar.
Greetings, friends. My name is Girish Sandhyaku, the Jesuit priest from Gujarat province, right now working in Myanmar, a Jesuit region. From 2017, I am here in Myitkyina, a township, the capital township of Kachin State, Myanmar. I am here as an associate director of St. Luke's College, a social pastoral formation center. While teaching, while reflecting with our own students in the formation, besides teaching, going out and seeing the reality, I came across the IDP camps, neighborhood IDP camps like Janmaikon, St. Paul IDP camp, and St. John IDP camp of Nompung. When I started celebrating the Mass in Janmaikon IDP camp, I said, "The Lord be with you." And people were finding it difficult to respond, the people of the displaced persons. Immediately I was choked. I did not know what to do at that particular moment, but still God gave me energy to understand the situations. From that time onwards, as I experienced that I work with various IDP camps in Myitkyina, nearly 5 IDP camps, we support food support, educational assistance, learning and teaching material, all because they are finding it difficult. They are going through mental stress. They are going through despair, hopelessness. From 2017, nearly 120,000 persons are displaced and living in 200 IDP camps all over in Kachin State. When I see the situations of such despair, hopelessness and worried and anger, my thing comes, why these things our people have to experience? So, really, the Myanmar refugees, even recently due to coup and then COVID, Kaya State, Chin State also have experienced such displacements. From 2017 right up to 2021, now various states are experiencing such mental stress, untimely death, untimely movement from one place to another place. So it is in this situation, the church organizations, the Jesuit organizations, and other non-government organizations are attending to the needs of the refugees and the displaced people internally. Though it may appear here within Myanmar or outside Myanmar, be it in Bangladesh or India, displaced people and their life is exactly the same because they have left their own environment, their own homes, and suddenly they have to experience what is not their own homes. It is simply as they go through this agony and despair, it is here is where God invites us to attend to their needs.
My name is Munu Pan. Now I live in Jamaica, IDP. We have been since 2011. So first time we lost our home, our environment, our family life. So we are not happy. The education was difficult. So 2011 I was grade 9. So and now I am attending the final college. So that time also we stop our education because the COVID-19 virus, and also our country is a little bit confused. That's why we stop. We cannot stop, or we cannot attend our college. So I have so many stress and so I feel I'm hopeless.
Friends, let's now see the risk factors and stressors related to the displaced people and refugees. First, exposure during forced departure. Refugees and IDPs may travel by plane or train without exposure to violence or danger if they have financial resources. Others have long migration journeys across multiple countries, exposed to physical and sexual assault, hiding, and lack of basic needs such as food, clean water, and the ability to maintain personal hygiene. The refugees and migrants are exposed to war, persecutions, and conflicts besides severe economic hardships. Second, exposure during travel or transit. They come across life-threatening events. They may encounter physical harm and become victims of human trafficking for their own survival. 3. Exposure during arrival in a new country. Exposed to poor living conditions and lack of quality of life, residing in a country intended as a country of transit. Number 4, exposure during integration with the people of the host country. The refugees and migrants exposed to an alien culture all on a sudden. Issues in obtaining entitlement and detention. Exposure to social isolation and unemployment. Exposure to forced return to the country of origin. Friends, displacement as a process involves several phases and components broadly categorized as pre-flight, flight, and post-flight or resettlement. The pre-flight phase involves the health status and socio-economic status of the displaced persons, while the flight phase involves the trigger event for displacement, usually with some level of trauma. Many IDPs in Myanmar have undergone psychological and physical trauma before and during their displacement ordeal. However, some IDPs or populations will have had pre-existing vulnerabilities, maybe socioeconomic health related, that may act as mediating or precursor factors in developing psychopathology subsequent to traumatic displacement. Speaking on the challenges the refugees face today, Father Stephen Roch, a Jesuit priest, the South Asia Regional Director of the Jesuit Refugee Services, The new influx of Myanmar Chin refugees in large scale in Manipur and Mizoram in India face untold hardships for survival. They are in pitiful condition and facing acute hardship in terms of food, clothing, shelter, medical aid and protection. For them to reach New Delhi-based UNHCR to apply for asylum seekers or refugee permits traveling thousands of kilometers without any permits at this time of COVID is the biggest challenge. Without refugee identity, they remain illegal and undergo constant threat of harassment and detention. The plight of these refugees or forcibly displaced people is becoming horrendous and appalling with the pandemic. It has exacerbated the pre-existing vulnerabilities of the refugees. The refugees need well-integrated and comprehensive rehabilitation program to address their issues, to foster life and promote their dignity. A prolonged post-flight phase, that is a lengthy displacement period, can have detrimental impacts on physical and mental health. The post-flight phase of displacement, if prolonged and accompanied by continuing and increased adversity, is likely to become a ground for the development of mental disorders. The IDP label, stigma, lack of adequate health care, finances, education, broken social networks, comorbid physical disorders, pre-existing psychopathology, displacement trauma and disintegrated sense of hope for a future can all increase risk of mental disorders. The refugees and the forcible migrants go through the following 4 types of trauma. First, physical trauma. They are exposed to physical assaults or injuries on the body. Second, emotional trauma. They are exposed to the feeling of abandonment, neglect, ridicule, and encroachment. Third, they are exposed to sexual trauma, such as human trafficking, rape, molestation, unhealthy exposure to sexual energy or acts, cultural ignorance on sexual diversity. Fourth, they are exposed to endurance trauma, a prolonged sense of feeling unsafe. The responses to the above traumatic experiences also vary depending on the environment in which the refugees and forcible migrants live. Number 1, cognitive responses. These include memory difficulties, lack of concentration, poor judgment, and inability to decide. Number 2, psychological responses. These include depression, withdrawal symptoms, flashbacks, intense fear, feelings of helplessness, loss of control over self, loss of connections and meaning, anxiety and specific fears. Number 3, physical responses. These include stomach pain, tightness of the chest, perspiration, and psychosomatic complaints. Number 4, behavioral responses. These include irritability, insomnia, lack of sleep, communication difficulties, drugs and alcohol abuses, and chain smoking. Number 5, spiritual responses. Losing the purpose and meaning in life, feeling of emptiness, sense of loss of the self, feeling very lonely, feeling humiliated, feeling frustrated, and feeling even suicidal. Mental health and psychosocial support to refugees and displaced people. It is a composite term used to describe any type of support that aims to protect or promote psychosocial well-being and to prevent or treat mental disabilities. MHPSS is a response to trauma through psychological counseling, psychological first aid, and psychiatric interventions. It promotes sense of competence in the refugees and migrants and resilience to crisis. It fosters social connections and interactions in the host country. The psychological first aid, we call PFA. It is a humane, supportive response to a fellow human being who is suffering and who may need support. The psychological counseling. Psychological functioning is personal and interpersonal functioning. It focuses on the problem that needs to be overcome while helping on the other areas of distress. Psychiatric interventions. It is usually medicine-based. It is done by a medical practitioner known as psychiatrist. It is a need-based intervention and it has multidisciplinary approach as mere medications alone will not suffice to treat psychiatric disorders such as PTSD. Providing mental health care for refugees and migrants should be done in partnership with the other social, cultural, and family supports around the individuals. Such an approach highlights the influence of environment on mental well-being. Social workers can serve as advocates by linking refugees with the psychosocial support to assist with the housing, legal aid, access to health care, education, and employment. Developing resilience. The whole concept of resilience has been associated with mental health for quite some time, principally seeking to describe positive associations that promote coping and adaptive abilities in the face of adversity among individuals and communities. Mental health providers can highlight the resilient processes that conflict-affected people can draw upon. Resilience is defined as the ability to cope with or adapt to any situation in the face of adversity. Resilience is time and context dependent, and it is a process that can be well developed across individual, family, and community levels. Mental health providers such as social workers can assist in making the environment less difficult by conceptualizing mental health, social environment, and individuals and families as interconnected to decrease the risk factors for adverse mental health and promote whole person well-being. Social workers should be mindful of the ongoing stresses that one may face, such as traumatic loss of loved ones and separation from culture and supports, host environment that may foster discrimination and marginalization, and so on. It is important to highlight the socio-ecological supportive factors that assist in rebuilding a new normal in a host country. Finally, Pope Francis calls for an ever more inclusive world, saying, "Ours must be a personal and collective commitment that cares for all our brothers and sisters who continue to suffer, even as we work towards a more sustainable, balanced, and inclusive development. A commitment that makes no distinction between natives and foreigners, between residents and guests, since it is a matter of a treasure we hold in common, from whose care and benefits no one should be excluded." He ends with a dream. We are called to dream together, fearlessly, as a single human family, as companions on the same journey, as sons and daughters of the same earth that is our common home. Friends, let me now conclude my presentation with the sharing of Father Mark Raper, a Jesuit priest who was the international director for JRS for 12 years in Rome. He is now working in Myanmar as the regional superior.
Hello, I'm asked to speak with you about the mental health and the life of refugees. Refugees are kneeling people. It means they've been brought to their knees because they form a something, form a citizens of a country, former doctors, former nurses, former farmers, former housewives, former everything. They've lost their livelihood, they've lost their land, they've lost all that they love. They've lost the land where the spirit of their ancestors is. They had to leave all that, and they feel a guilt at that. But basically they're kneeling people, you could say. Often when people talk about refugees, they mention numbers, statistics, how many refugees there are. And that's certainly frightening. That's a terrible quantity of people are displaced today. But it's not just 4 million Afghan or 7 million Syrians or 1 million Rohingya. It's a lot of individual people. If we want to know refugees, we have to know individuals. Let me tell you a story. I was in Rwanda after the genocide and often used to go to the villages, see Hutu and Tutsi people side by side. They lived together, they're friends. And the Hutu and Tutsi women would cook the food for the prisoners. And in that prison were Hutu murderers who'd killed the husbands of some of those people from the villages. They knew them, they knew what they'd done. But they're able to overcome. When you know refugees, when you listen to them, you hear their stories, it heals them. It really heals them. But many are carrying such a burden. But if they can themselves go out to others, they can also be healed. Sometimes people talk about hate, that hate drives the conflicts. It does, but it's hate that's been encouraged. But when we look at the individual, we can't generalize. We can't say all Hindus hate all Muslims, or all Burmans hate Rohingya. Or this is a terrible generalization. Never get sucked into that. Please don't ever get sucked into that. Consider really, how can refugees be welcomed? How can they be protected? How can they be healed? And how can the causes of refugees, the struggles over which people are displaced, how can they be stopped?
Thank you so much, dear staff and students, for your patient listening. If any questions and clarifications, you are most welcome to write to me. msjacobsj@gmail.com. Thank you.